going to go live. And once we're live, we can go ahead and get started. Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our May 13th Education and Communications Subcommittee meeting. I'm not going to call roll because we never do, but Kofi, could you introduce a motion to approve minutes from last time?
I'm starting a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good. We're good to go. As always, I'd like to start off. Is there anything that anybody wants to talk about? Any major events, any thoughts, any opinions that you guys would like to talk about?
Yes, I wanted to send you guys an email about a event coming up on Saturday. It's called the Community Against Hate. City Dublin is supporting this event, and multiple community groups are joining. Papa is one of the national organizations that is leading this event, and hopefully you guys can join as well. I will send you some information.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would love
Sure,
to attend.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else? Anybody else have any big news? Hearing none. Tonight, we're going to attempt to get through the rest of our indicators and to review our additions from last week. This week or this month rather, for the community task force is a little strange. We're approving our aspirational goals, which we've done like twice now, but this is the final go ahead for that. And then we're covering our indicators. They don't necessarily need to be final yet, but we are going to share them with the task force at large. So I thought today would be a good opportunity just to go through what we have and try to elaborate if we can. And I also have a new aspirational goal that I would like to float by you guys potentially adding. And I'll explain more when we get to it. Okay, so I added in everything that we talked about last week. Do you want me to read through all of these out loud, or would you like to read through them on your own? Or have you read through them? Because I sent them out ahead of time. I don't mind reading through them all. It's your choice if you want to hear my voice that much.
Kirby, you can go ahead and just reread it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we have communications and outreach. The city should work to continuously understand the communal diversity within Dublin while promoting a welcoming environment by building relationships and trust. The first way we can do this, and I'm going to stop after each one and we can talk about it. Sound good? Cool. The city releases official city statements, materials, and digital content in several different languages. Do you think that we should have a number, or do you think several is enough direction for the city to move forward?
Several is good.
Okay.
Agreed.
Any other final thoughts or opinions on that bullet? Hearing none. The next is the city reevaluates its communication channels to ensure that it is reaching all racial demographics in communities in Dublin.
Sounds good.
The next is the city will seek opportunities to amplify voices in communities through official City of Dublin content, such as Dublin News in 90.
Sounds good as well.
The city will evaluate its inventory of key navigational signage in and around city buildings, updating it to increase the use of icons, multilingual, and gender-neutral language.
That's fine.
I think I need to throw in so when it says key navigational signage, I need to put and city infrastructure, because one of the big things is quote unquote manholes. Like there shouldn't be gendered infrastructure. Like it's just a piece of steel on the ground. And that's not necessarily signage. So I think I just need to throw in that word to incorporate that aspect of it. I got a really big head nod from Sammy, so I think we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. The next is the city leverages diverse community leaders to expand communication efforts regarding city practices and electoral engagement.
Sounds good.
The city will increase the number of interpreters at city events.
Sounds good as well.
All right.
Can I chime in on the last bullet points?
Yes.
The number of interpreters. That so it can be explained in different ways. Like number of, let's say you want to like Chinese interpreters, you have like 10 instead of 1, or do we mean like we will have a variety of different languages involved?
I
Does
think
that
that
include that?
I think that the intent of our conversation, Kofi and Sammy, correct me if I'm wrong, was the number of different interpreters. So American Sign Language, Chinese, the list goes on. I mean, just a number of different ways in which people can engage with the content through the language that they prefer.
Yeah, we had talked the last meeting for that. What came up was sign language, for example.
What about thinking of from accessibility standpoint? Do we need to cover that, or is it something out of scope for this particular slide? Let's say somebody we need sign language or other ways to communicate.
Accessibility as in like the accessibility of the content, so potentially streaming, recording, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and also the last bullet point is focusing on like language barriers. And what about people have like vision difficulties or hearing difficulties? How do we let people know about our events?
Would you classify Braille as a language? I would. So that could fall under the first bullet point, or we could
First bullet
specifically,
point.
yeah, because it wouldn't necessarily be. Well, I mean, I guess it could be a city event.
Several different languages. Maybe just add a some kind of noun or something to basically expand the scope a little bit.
Sure. So to include accessibility for blind, deaf, and maybe mute individuals.
Yeah, you can say let's use the first bullet point as an example, right? Materials, digital content in several different languages, and also maybe include another phrase saying that and additional ways to accommodate people who have accessible needs or something like that.
No, it's a really good point, and one that I didn't think of. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, maybe first and last bullet point, use your language talent as something. So it's already pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on this slide before we move forward? All right, leadership development. The city must promote understanding of Dublin government and the community at large by recruiting diversity into city leadership to leadership development and education efforts. Citizen University, Dublin City Citizens Police Academy, and Washington Township Citizens Fire Academy curriculums incorporate acknowledgement of Dublin's diversity in their curriculums. I said curriculums twice. I will change that, but you get the general idea. Everyone good? Total number of diverse Citizen University, Dublin Citizens Police Academy, and Washington Township Citizens Fire Academy program alumni increases annually. Good?
Yes.
Kofi, what's on your mind?
I was just rereading it. It seemed a little confusing to me at first. It sounds good to me though. I just had to reread it.
Okay. Next, the city supports training programs for historically underrepresented communities and youth on what it takes to run for local elected office or to staff a board or commission.
Sounds good.
Kofi, your big point at our last meeting was that distinction between youth and underrepresented communities, and not just focusing on the diversity, but also getting young people involved. Do you think that this bullet does enough to parse out those two ideas and shed light on them?
Yeah, it incorporates what I was talking about previously about, pretty much exposing them to that field. So I like that bullet point.
Okay. The city institutes a process for facilitating shadowing experiences and mentorship with elected City of Dublin officials for diverse community leaders and youth.
Sounds good.
The city sponsors community leaders from diverse backgrounds to complete the Dublin Chamber of Commerce's Leadership Development Program.
This is good.
Kofi, you seem like you are about to come out with the next great American novel.
I was just thinking, have we? I don't remember us specifically naming the Dublin Chamber of Commerce Leadership Program. I think a
We
leadership program is good, but I just don't remember that specific program.
it's a certification program that a lot of leaders within the city, specifically like the business community, but also within city government, that they take. And it's kind of like an accreditation. Like they throw it around like a certificate, like an educational experience. Um, so, when we were talking about like leadership development, I kind of put two and two together that we would have Leadership Dublin on there. Um, I think Beaverton's was bold, increasing the number of bold attendees. Do you are you okay with it being here, or do you feel like it needs to be removed?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it being there with that explanation.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason I put sponsor is because I think that it costs, like it's an official like certification, and I think that if the city really wants to push forward some community leaders that maybe they fit the bill for it, or work out a deal with the Chamber of Commerce, or specifically help people get involved. I think that the city can do a good job facilitating. Youth engagement, we won't go over this again. We went over this last time. I have a meeting with them on Monday to finalize this. Unless you guys are really trying to dig into this, this is the same as last time. I didn't touch it. All right, so here's where we kind of need to dig in a little bit. I did a lot of thinking about this slide over the last week. At one point, I wrote everything down on my whiteboard and threw a tennis ball at it for 2 hours, trying to think of like how we could go about knocking this out. So we had a really in-depth conversation about reflective government last time, and you all made it clear that you are looking for representation in engagement, understanding, and perspective, rather than the demographic composition of council. Correct? That is still your opinion as to what real reflective government is. Representation of engagement. So
Yes.
I wrote down, this was kind of where my thinking went. How can staff and council take steps to ensure that the perspectives of diverse communities in Dublin are understood and considered throughout the public policy process? Couple ideas that I had. Staff, council, boards, and commissions participate in Dublin-specific diversity, equity, and inclusion and cultural competency trainings. When I say Dublin specific, I mean somebody takes the time to do the research as to and engage with communities within Dublin, and then staff goes to class about the communities in Dublin, our demographic composition, the proud traditions that are within individual communities, just so that they have a better idea of who they're working for and who they're representing. I also put staff council boards leverage the perspectives of the future DE&I advisory board. I think it's a good opportunity to make sure that council's reflective. And then staff council boards leverage town halls as an opportunity to engage with concerns of diverse communities. Those were just my general ideas. What do you guys think of that? Do you have any others that you'd like to replace or pile on top of?
In one of the previous bullet points and meetings, we talked about how we want to create, some type of annual town hall for different issues. The idea that popped up in my mind was, for example, if we have a Dublin Black residents town hall, this is one area where city council and staff can learn different perspectives. So pretty much, if city would like to get different thoughts on public policy, attending various town halls would be beneficial for that.
Absolutely. So were you thinking about one annual town hall for each diverse community, kind of as an opportunity to be face to face with the city, express your concerns, express your community specific perspectives?
No, I was not thinking of one big diverse town hall. I was thinking of there already being separate, diverse events, and this is where you can learn the different perspectives. I wasn't more thinking of one big, town hall.
So you're thinking of many.
Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking of many because what we had thought of previously was, already having many. Um, so yeah.
I'm
And
sorry, I'm
also one
writing.
more thing I have to add would be, oh, I can wait for you to finish.
No, go ahead.
Um, so the previous slide we had mentioned city council increasing exposure through leadership programs or engagement programs. Them continuing that is another way of uh, gaining different perspectives for public policy.
Absolutely. All right, how about this for the language with the annual town halls? The city will organize and facilitate a series of town halls to engage with specific communities.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that too.
Do you think that the specific communities gets the message across that we want you to go and meet with every community within the city of Dublin and get their perspectives as to the direction of the city?
I think when you want to gain perspective on public policy and all that from different groups, you're gonna have to go to specific groups and listen to what they have to say, because when you do one big event with everybody, you may not get to hear everyone's true words. You may not get to hear everyone's true perspective.
That's true. So we have these 3 bullet points, plus a 4th, including the annual town halls. Any other ideas as to how staff, boards and commissions, and Dublin City Council can take the time to engage with different perspectives and truly be reflective?
Town
That's
hall,
okay.
maybe just a meeting, right?
I'm
People
sorry.
just gather together.
So
And
commonly meeting with leaders within the community in an informal setting.
okay, yeah,
Kind of like
that's a good idea.
So kind of like the meeting that you and your peers had with Dana that I got to sit in on, where we learned about the WeChat that you have. Like
Okay,
those meetings are incredibly important, right?
yeah, I think so. It's very beneficial to all of us. I think that's good. I think we definitely need to do that more often. And in
Absolutely.
addition to that, I think Dana and I were talking about, in the past, we had some kind of like festival type of event that involves different communities, and they can showcase their culture and different aspects, like in a like daily life setting. Like we have Irish festival, and also in the past we had another festival is focusing on arts of different communities. Maybe we can do those kind of activities on a periodic basis too.
I think it's a really good point. It was called the Bread Festival, and that's the
Yeah, bread
festival
festival. Yes.
that celebrated all the different cultures and had an opportunity to share their cultural experiences. Unfortunately, I believe that it lost funding, and that's kind of why it died. But we have a good opportunity on our next slide to promote Dublin's diversity. We could recommend that they bring the Bread Festival back.
Yep.
Okay, so community building and inclusion. So let's do this one next before we jump forward.
Okay.
So commit to improve Dublin's inclusivity as a community. The city must commit to improving the community's inclusivity by providing its residents opportunities to engage in diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings, conversations, and awareness campaigns. So our ideas from last meeting was to establish a minimum number of open speaker events, town halls, and DEI training, and integrate approach to provide a number of welcoming classes in different languages to new members of the community. Those were the two ideas that we came up with last time. What are some other ways that the city can improve Dublin's inclusivity? It's hard because I feel like we've hit on it so much, but there's always more we can do.
This is a good start.
It's hard for me personally to think of more because it's almost like everything else previously we've talked about contributes to its inclusivity. But one thing I really do like about this slide is the minimum number of open speaker events and DEI training. I think that's really good.
What about council and the city's public stances on major societal events?
See, the thing about that is that doesn't hurt, but when it comes to that, I question like how effective would it be for the community, because we know at the end of the day, council is just going to take the stance of what sounds good. You know, they might not actually personally believe it, but they'll still say it. But if we think about what can benefit the community the most, I don't think, you know, them making a popular statement on something is going to have that big of a impact. It'll make people feel good, but you know, we want real change.
I understand. So do you think that it is therefore too little to put on this slide?
I honestly think if it were put on the slide, it wouldn't. It's better kept off. I think so. I honestly don't. I don't see how it can. It's not on the same level of the other two bullet points.
It's fair. Sammy, you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether we cover this in other slides or not. And this slide we talk about education, inviting speakers to basically raise awareness, provide training. What about at schools? And right now, with the anti-Asian instance increasing nationwide, there's a push to encourage school districts to include more diversity oriented curriculum into their existing curriculum. Actually, a few Dublin school teachers, they were asking community members to provide ideas about the books about Asian community, Asian culture, people, and so forth, so that they can bring back to their classroom to educate the students. And also, there's a nationwide project focusing on that as well, including Asian American culture into like elementary school, middle school, high school, and so forth. I'm not sure whether this is a place to address that as well. Basically, include diversity as part of the curriculum, different ethnicity groups, different minority groups, and so forth.
Vincent, whenever I had tried to make some type of recommendation when it was geared towards school, I received pushback from that. That was when Dr. Holy would be present in here. What I was told is that what we do here for the task force is separate than the school district. So those types of recommendations, it's more effective for us to somehow get in touch with someone from the school. Because I remember that was something that I kept trying to talk about, but it wasn't successful.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I
if
know
I
those.
could jump in, I
Yeah,
wish
go ahead,
I,
Kirby.
I wish this weren't the case. However, we have to draw a hard line between us and the schools because we're separate organizations. And as much as I think it may be beneficial for us to wag the finger and to start encouraging them to do some things differently, in the spirit of collaboration and partnership between the two organizations, it's rather difficult to do as another political subdivision. Now, if we were the community task force of the school district, we could do that all day, and I would be happy to. But unfortunately, we're required to draw a line there.
Yeah, that makes
Vincent,
sense. Yeah, I concur with you and Kofi's comments. I think probably something like that curriculum design maybe is better addressed with the school directly.
But there was one thing that I wanted to pull out. You spoke about the rise of Asian hate in America, and it kind of linked back to where I was trying to go with the idea of council taking prominent stands um, about societal events or societal issues. Well, what if they don't take just a public stance? What if we recommended that they facilitate and organize community events in response to societal events? For instance, what if we recommended that the city got involved with the event that you're sharing with us this Saturday? And instead of just showing up on Saturday and saying, hey, we support this, what if the city put some resources behind that and helped organize it? That'd be
That's
doing
a good idea.
something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank
that
you for
sounds good.
bringing that up.
Kofi, that sounds better.
Yeah, reworded like that, it sounds a lot better. I like that approach.
Action, not talk. I agree.
Thank you. Yeah, you need to be able to articulate before you are able to take actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great idea. If you can
Well,
figure out a way to include it.
I'll figure out the wording. I just stole the idea from you, Vincent.
Oh, thank you. You are too modest. You came up with that.
um, any other thoughts or opinions as to how the city can improve Dublin's inclusivity? I think we've hit some pretty good ones. I think we've got 3 or 4 solid good ones. Any other last second ideas? We'll have more time with this. We will. Hearing none, we'll move forward to our second to last aspirational goal, and one that probably needs the most work: promote Dublin's diversity. It is important that the city take active measures to acknowledge, appreciate, and uplift diversity within the community in a public setting whenever possible. Integrate cultural awareness celebration into city events. So I think that's where the Bread Festival would come in. Maybe we specifically say, let's bring back cultural awareness, an event for cultural awareness and celebration. Acknowledging diversity in public spaces and communication material, marketing materials, press media, social media, all channels. What are some other ways that the city can promote Dublin's diversity, really tell those stories?
Holding the event like Breath Festival will definitely help elevate Dublin's image about diversity. And so we can do that at local level. In the future, you can expand it to, like, let's say, Greater Columbus. Like Dublin is hosting that diversity event. Everybody comes to Dublin to do that.
I like that a lot.
Diversity conference or something, right?
Yeah.
You can expand it.
A regional summit on diversity and inclusion hosted by City of Dublin.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be like multi-step approach, right? You start with something tangible, local, manageable, then you gradually expand to more complex, including more people.
I like that a lot because it makes Dublin want to push to be, the leadership city when it comes to diversity, and it forces them to really be on top of their game of inclusivity.
Because otherwise you're talking about nothing. Yeah, that's a good point. I'll do some research on this. I have to admit, this slide is not my strong suit. I'm not a marketing person. I'm not an event coordinator. So I don't have very many ideas when it comes to this one, to be honest. So I will do some more research over this next week and try to find some more things for us to incorporate.
Sounds good.
I just had a memory. Early on, we talked about diverse public art and having rotating public art from diverse communities. Is that something that you all would stand by?
Wouldn't that be part of 2 slides ago, having the diverse items in public spaces like the rec center? Do you remember that?
What slide was that on? It's not reflective government. I don't think we have it. I think it was on here at one point, and I changed the wording, and we lost it.
Could you go
Is this-
to like the first 2 or 3? Because I promise I saw something similar to it.
So
Next
it's not on.
one.
Yeah, it's not on this one. It's not on this one. It's not on this one.
I guess it disappeared. I thought I saw it. But you're aware of what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the same
Yeah,
thing.
we can add that to the new slide we're talking about.
In promoting Dublin's diversity.
Yeah, promote the diverse cultural art in public spaces, high traffic public spaces.
I like it. Any other ideas before we move on to the new aspirational area? Again, this won't be the last time. It's like the second to last time we review this. We'll meet one more time probably in between next task force meeting and when we have to turn in our homework. All right, last slide. I'm going to do a lot of talking. My apologies. So JM, our LGBTQ plus liaison, one of our 2 LGBTQ plus liaisons to the city manager's office, and I sat in on I should probably do this so that you guys can see me. sat in on a protecting and advocating for your LGBTQ plus community members seminar put on by the Human Rights Campaign. Human Rights Campaign evaluates laws, practices, and procedures that local governments leverage to accomplish their goals, and put them through the lens of whether or not they do a good job of protecting their LGBTQ plus communities, not only in the workplace, but in the community at large. They had a lot of really, really good ideas and a lot of policies that I think we haven't really touched on yet. JM and I had a really strong conversation about how the work of the task force has played out and how LGBTQ plus considerations are layered within a lot of what we do, right? When we talk about communities, diverse communities, they're lumped into that. But JM made the argument that he thought because of the amount of work that the city still has to do, it would be smart if we used this document as an opportunity to advocate for the city to make some changes to better protect and work with and uplift the LGBTQ plus community in the city of Dublin. So I took the recommendations from the Human Rights Campaign and put them into our framework. And I'll run through it real quick. And if you guys don't think that LGBTQ plus community should be its own aspirational goal, I'm completely fine with that, and I understand. I just wanted to bring it forward as an idea, and if you guys shoot it down, it's completely fine. So I'll read it. Support the LGBTQ plus community. It is imperative to the future of the community that the city take active steps in improving its support of the LGBTQ plus community. City Council passes a non-discrimination law that protects LGBTQ plus from employment, housing, and public accommodation discrimination. As you all know, there are federal laws regarding discrimination due to race or ethnicity. There is not protections for those with gender fluidity or who believe that they are on the spectrum at all. So it is technically federally legal to discriminate on the fact that you are LGBTQ plus, but localities have taken it upon themselves to pass their own laws. We're going to be getting for the task force on the agenda for next Tuesday. We're going to be getting a brief from the city law director about these types of laws and what cities are doing. The next is the city provides LGBTQ plus focused city services, including employment support, hosting pride-related events, and mental health assistance. The city institutes an LGBTQ plus bullying prevention policy for city services and events. Specifically, the Human Rights Campaign was talking about community organized summer camps having specific rules against bullying for LGBTQ plus purposes. The city institutes gender transition policies for Dublin employees. We have a number of administrative orders. Administrative orders are what govern the actions and the processes of the city as an organization. A lot of them are HR related. There are no procedures or plans in place for somebody who goes through the gender transition a gender transition scenario while working for the city of Dublin. There isn't an official name change process. There isn't an official pronoun change process. There isn't an official dress code change, anything like that. So it's really making sure that there's a procedure in line for those individuals to feel safe within. And then lastly, the city takes public stances in favor of LGBTQ plus equality, including bridge lightings for significant communal holidays, publicly supporting legislation, issuing proclamations and resolutions, and overall treating the LGBTQ plus community as a stakeholder. So first, I'll ask, do you think that this has a place in being its own aspirational goal within our framework?
I think this slide, it doesn't fit into communication outreach and should probably be its own thing. So like in our previous meeting, like we would have recommendations from the 3 subcommittees. This LGBTQ one would be like its own thing.
Its own like priority area.
Yeah.
So to provide respectful pushback, the same could be said about youth engagement, but they're layered within what is our the public engagement priority area, right? So this one is layered within our community building and inclusion priority area. So the thought is that by supporting LGBTQ plus individuals, we are building a better inclusive community. I did not mean to do that.
Could you go back to that cover slide uh, that included the youth? Yeah.
So this priority area, the community building and inclusion, does not include youth. Community building and inclusion includes improving Dublin's inclusivity as a community, promoting Dublin's diversity, and supporting the LGBTQ plus community, potentially. The other one is public engagement, and it has communications and outreach, leadership development, youth engagement, and reflective government and city practices.
And could you go back to the LGBTQ one?
We can make it a priority area. Here was my thinking as to why I thought we shouldn't. Because then you're effectively calling out one community and saying that they're a priority area, whereas other communities are not called out and not priority areas.
That's a good point.
I think it's it would fit under community building and inclusion, like the inclusion part more so.
Are there any other areas within supporting the LGBTQ plus community that you think are not covered within this? Again, these are recommendations from the Human Rights Campaign that have been Dublinized, if you will. That's okay if you don't. So unless you guys have any more feedback for these bullet points, can I get a thumbs up or thumbs down as to whether or not we should proceed into our next meeting with this, into our task force meeting? I'm going to assume Vincent has thrown his thumbs up. Okay. Good job today. I think we got some good stuff
Yes.
done.
Sorry, I
Thank you,
was on
Vincent.
mute.
No worries.
Yeah.
So those are all of our slides for today. Unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about.
I would like to say to Vincent, when it comes to the recommendations for the school curriculum, before Dr. Holy left, he said that they have their own task force that is made up of teachers. If you can somehow reach out to somebody and find out about that, that's somewhere you can voice your opinion for the curriculum and the books.
Yeah, and you reached out to him in the past as well. And I heard from one of the community leaders, they talk about they had some kind of community, it's called diversity committee or something, diversity committee. I'll try to find that committee to see what they are doing and see whether we can include more ideas. I'm sure you presented a few ideas. Maybe we can circle back in the next couple of weeks, then we can figure out a way to engage with them. Or if there's a committee, they are already doing that, we can just provide our inputs to them. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, what was that?
I was saying I will reach out to a few people to find out what the Dublin schools diversity committee, what they are doing, and maybe they are already doing something that Kofi and I were talking about. That would be great, and we would love to see the results. Otherwise, we can provide inputs to them, and they can present to the school, or we figure out the mechanism for us to provide information to the school. To your point, Kirby, earlier, so talking about it is one thing, and also we need to take actions. So as far as the schools are concerned, we definitely want them to take actions too. We need to hold them accountable.
Absolutely. I completely agree. So we need to report out our progress to the task force at large. Does anybody want to volunteer to read through our slides at the next task force meeting?
I can go ahead and do it if nobody else wants to.
Thank you, Kofi.
Thank you.
I will send you all the info, and if you need me, you can send me an email. Unless you guys have anything else, I think we're adjourned.
Thank you. Have a nice week.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.